Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News. Here's what we have in the bulletin. 3 killed, several others injured during gun attack in Westmoreland. Political parties retain confidence in EOJ despite election results delay. And later in sports, Cavalier battles FC Cincinnati in second leg of CONCACAF Champions Cup. Thank you for joining us. I'm Shamela Pullen. Here are the details. Chairman of the Citizens for Free and Fair Elections, Grace Baston, wants changes to the Representation of the People's Act. This is to include specific roles of observers. Mrs. Baston was speaking on TVJ Smile Jamaica Wednesday. It's been 2 days since the local government election and the winner has still not been declared. The Electoral Office of Jamaica says it continues to do the final tally. But Chairman of the Citizens for Free and Fair Elections, CAFE, Grace Baston, says it is the first she has seen such a lengthy delay in finalizing and announcing election results.
We've seen where after, because as you know, that those numbers that are announced on election night are preliminary. What happens at the counting sentence afterwards gives you the official. So we've seen where they've been, we've had to wait. I think the scale is a little different, but No, I don't remember seeing this kind of uncertainty for so long.
For the most part, Mrs. Baston says the report from her team on the local government election on Monday was good. But at the close of the polls for the counting of the ballots, about 12% of volunteers were not allowed to view the process. The matter was reported to the Director of Elections, Glasspool Brown. Mr. Brown says the reports received from CAFE on the day's proceedings will inform the Electoral Office of the gaps and how to address them. But according to Mrs. Baston,
I've heard him announce in the media that there will be a meeting. We're certainly going to insist on a meeting. My sense is that we have a representation of the People's Act. That's the law. We need to make in that law, and it's not we don't need a referendum to do it, more explicit the role of the observers. We don't want to leave it up to a director's interpretation, a director's understanding of what, because it is clear to me that somewhere in the training of the EOJ personnel, it was inconsistent, because for the most part, their presiding officers got it right.
Mrs. Baston also stressed that the role of CAFE in overseeing the activities of an election is critical to the democratic process.
What an observer does is to ensure that at the end of the day, when the results are released in a democracy, citizens are confident that people weren't deprived of their right, that this is not the result of fraud and malpractice, and as we used to have ballot box stuffing and multiple voting.
The country's 2 main political parties say they still retain confidence in the Electoral Office of Jamaica. This is despite criticisms over the delay in delivering results from Monday's local government election. Amoy Harriot reports.
After preliminary counting on Monday, the country was left uncertain on whether the Jamaica Labour Party or the People's National Party had won the local government election. Both parties have claimed victory in the close contest. PNP General Secretary Dr. Dayton Campbell says he's not concerned at this time about how the Electoral Office of Jamaica EOJ has conducted the process. Dr. Campbell was speaking Wednesday on the morning agenda on Power 106 FM.
I have not seen anything as yet that would suggest to me that I have to be concerned. It clearly is a close election. A lot of persons are clearly on edge because there's uncertainty about who has won, right? We are even arguing about how do you define who has won, right? Because there seems to be no clear parameter or no clear winner.
In the meantime, his counterpart, Dr. Horace Shang of the JLP, says where there have been errors or disagreements during the counting of ballots, these have been dealt with.
I don't have any major concerns at all. I think we continue to demonstrate that we have a very good electoral system. It's a credit to the democratic process, democracy in the country, and the practice and competence of the people who run the system. It's one that the country can take national credit for, that we have a very effective and respected elected in place.
Up to Tuesday afternoon, the final count for 56 electoral divisions had been completed. Of the 10 divisions in St. Thomas, 3 have been confirmed to include Landoy and Dalvey, won by the Jamaica Labour Party, and the Bath division now held by the People's National Party. Across St. Mary, the final ballot counting is complete for Richmond and Karen Hall for the JLP and the Islington division for the PNP. In the West, the JLP has received the nod for Rose Hall, Montego Bay Northeastern, Montego Bay North and Montego Bay West, and Little London in Westmoreland. Frankfield, Ainon Town, Chapperton, Rock River, Maypen North, and Palmer's Cross have been confirmed by the EOJ under the JLP's win column in Clarendon, with Spalding and Riches remaining with the PNP. Across St. Catherine, the PNP has walked away with Lloydesdale, Waterford, Westchester, Above Rocks, Mount Industry, Greendale, Lauriston, and the JLP with Gregory Park. Confirmation has also been given in favor of the PNP in Brandon Hill, Malines Gardens, Duaney Park, Seaview Gardens, Whitfield Town, and Painlands in St. Andrew. The governing party has officially won Lawrence Tavern, Olympic Gardens, Cassia Park, Barbican, and Waterloo. Amoy Harriet, TVJ News.
Some residents in Westmoreland are on edge this afternoon following a gun attack which left 3 persons dead and several others injured. Our reporter Dwayne Anderson is in the parish and filed this report.
The deadly attack happened here at this bar sometime after 1 this morning. We understand that several persons, patrons, were gathered here for their usual party when an Axio motor car drove up with armed men. They exited and opened fire on all the occupants at the establishment. In the end, 7 persons were shot, 3 died. The deceased have been identified as Everall Rowe, Kemar Smith, and Andre MacDonald. The 4 other people were taken to hospital. Their conditions are not yet known. The police here in Westmoreland are investigating.
Quiet place, a place, I don't know, violent place. Easy going place. Yeah, man. So, this is surprising to us. We don't really expect this now. So, I know, say, boy, that's something that go on and it will build up to it. Well, I was surprised because a regular place where we just full job yourself and easy. That's all.
The motive for the attack is not yet known, but residents here in the rural community are hoping it is not the start of gang activities. Reporting from Westmoreland, I'm Dwayne Anderson for TVJ News.
Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark has responded to concerns about the long-awaited 2022 population and housing census. The process was delayed due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Speaking at the JLP headquarters Monday night, Dr. Clark says it is in the final stage of completion.
A fuller update will be provided at a time when we can focus on that as a subject material. But we're coming to the end of the analytical phase of the census process.
Chief Justice Brian Sykes says the Circuit Court remains ahead of the Supreme Court when dealing with the backlog in cases, but he says there are areas that can be improved. There are over 100 cases that will be tried at the Black River Court in St. Elizabeth over a 4-week period. Chief Justice Brian Sykes was in the parish Monday for the opening of the Circuit Court trial. In his address, Justice Sykes says the Circuit Court continues to do well in dealing with court matters.
Based upon the numbers, over 90% of cases in our court system are dealt with in the parish courts. So it is important for me to come out to see what is happening and to congratulate the staff because the parish courts are and have been the best performing courts at the 3 levels, performing better than the Court of Appeal, performing much better than the Supreme Court because the parish courts are in fact backlog free 2 years ahead of schedule.
He says the success so far would not have been possible without the help of the various stakeholders.
The judges of the parish court, the court administrators, the staff, the assistants, the bailiffs, the police, the custos, the justices of the peace, the people from the Ministry of Health. So there are multiple stakeholders that make the justice system work. So you have lawyers, probation services, all of those persons are significant contributors.
But Justice Sykes says despite the improvements, there are matters that still need to be addressed.
You look at the circuit court list here, for example, it's a clear indication, not just in St. Elizabeth, but across Jamaica, that the circuit system has run its course. Not that it was a bad system, but it worked for the time that it was devised, and now with the volume of cases, it simply cannot work anymore. Coming out 3 times per year, which is roughly 12 weeks, with the best will in the world, is not sufficient, and that translates into delay, violation of human rights for persons who are charged.
It's time for a break. Stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. The Planning Institute of Jamaica, PIOJ, has partnered with the HEART NSDA Trust. The aim is to deepen its relationship for youth development. Karen Simpson reports.
Youth and community development will receive a significant boost with the signing of a Memorandum of Understanding between the Planning Institute of Jamaica, PIOJ, and HEART NSDA Trust. Dr. Wayne Henry is president of the PIOJ.
This MOU is a culmination of ongoing discussions between the PIOJ, represented by its Community Renewal Program, CRP, and the Trust, towards framing a mechanisms for collaboration in the implementation of appropriate programs for building the capacity of citizens within our volatile and vulnerable communities. This collaboration comes against a background of the social and economic realities that often confront the citizens within our target communities.
He says many youth from such communities are usually underprepared for the productive sector and labor market. It is why he says the PIOJ has to intervene
to assist them to identify and access the facilities that may help them to improve their circumstances. Many of these frustrated youth often become victims and perpetrators of violence and crime. The vulnerability of these youth is therefore a serious problem that requires urgent intervention and is one of the critical issues that gave rise to the introduction of the CRP.
In the meantime, Managing Director of the HEART NSDA Trust, Dr. Tanisha Inglington, while welcoming the partnership, urged more agencies to come on board.
We have to understand how important it is for organizations to come together. If it is that we're going to be tackling violence and crime, Dr. Henry, as our Prime Minister refers to it as violence and crime, because crime stems from violence. And so if it is that we are able to stem violence, then certainly there would be no crime, because that's where it starts.
Carrie Simpson, TVJ News.
It's now time for the Business Minute.
Jamaica's mining industry realized an estimated 23.6% expansion in the last quarter of 2023. Director General of the PIOJ, Dr. Wayne Henry, says this resulted from an increase in alumina production. However, crude bauxite production declined by 27%. As a result, the bauxite capacity utilization rate decreased to 32.7%, down 12.1 percentage points. Further afield, the Department of Justice in the United States has started an antitrust probe into United Health. The investigation into the Minnesota-based company has involved interviews with healthcare industry officials and representatives in areas where United Health competes with other groups. According to people with knowledge of the matter, the investigators are asking about links with United Health's insurance unit and its Optum Health Services arm. They are looking into any potential impact that United Health's doctor group acquisitions could have on its rivals. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Amoy Harriet.
And here's a preview of what's coming up in this evening's Health Report. In this evening's Health Report, we look at wound management.
The wound should also be irrigated with pressure that is harmless with the irrigation apparatus. The wound should be you should ensure that there are no foreign bodies. And of course, closing the wound is the best approach, especially if it is within the time of injury, such as 6 to 12 hours. You don't want to close a wound a day after because of the increased risk of infection.
That's the health report in Primetime News at 7. And now for today's healthy living tip. Avoid hot water, fire, and sharp objects. Check your body for sores regularly. Manage health conditions. And practice healthy hygiene habits and skincare. Time now for the top regional and international stories.
In the region, police in Mexico are investigating the shooting death of 2 candidates for mayor of the central Mexican town of Matavatio, who were killed just hours apart. Armando Perez of the Conservative National Action Party and Miguel Angel Reyes from the ruling left-leaning party Morena were both found dead in their personal vehicles, having suffered gunshot wounds. Both candidates were set to run in the elections on June 2. On the international scene, Peru has declared a health emergency across most of the country in response to a surge in dengue fever cases. Roughly 32,000 people have caught the virus in the first 8 weeks of the year, while 32 deaths have been recorded. The health emergency will enable the nation's government to transfer funds faster to the affected regions and also transport doctors and nurses covering 20 of the country's 24 provinces. And over 30,000 people from the Australian state of Victoria have been ordered to evacuate their homes amidst raging wildfires. Firefighters are battling a huge blaze, which many experts describe as the worst fire condition the country has seen in recent years. Severe thunderstorms are also forecast in the region, which bring the threat of dry lightning, which are strikes that occur during a storm where the rain evaporates before hitting the ground. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Amoy Harriet.
Thank you, Amoy. We head to a quick break. When we come back, we'll have your midday sports report with Spencer Darlington.